Yes, the Meiji Restoration. Here you see, this is the map of China and Japan. Now, throughout the Japanese history, we see that Japan had stayed isolated from the foreigners. And this is here you see the ship on that time, the Japanese or the others countries, they were used for the trade. Japan isolated from the external world and the only Asian country which escaped from colonization. So Japan was the only country who was not under any of the European country. And internal discontent coincided with demands for trade and diplomatic relations. In 1853, the USA sent a strong navy under the Commodore Matthew Perry to Japan to demand that the government sign a treaty that would permit trade and open the diplomatic relations. So, and after that, the good relationship for the trade and the diplomatic relations were also started with the help of the Commodore Matthew Perry with Japan. Here you see the picture of Matthew Perry. Here in this map, here in the key, here you see the USA also purchased, where you see the brown color, okay, in the Pacific Ocean. These are the islands, and these were USA acquired by purchase or acquired by war or by occupation or un the unilateral decisions. Okay, so then all these islands were under the control of the United Nations. Now, why? Japan lay on the route to China, in which USA saw a major market. Their ships in the Pacific needed a place to refuel. At that time, there was only one Western country that traded with Japan, that was the Holland. So, the USA also wanted a market, okay, a major market in the China and in Japan, and for their ships, for maintaining the ships or refueling their ships. USA also wanted a harbor in the Pacific Ocean. So on that time, the Japan countries traded with only one country, that was the Holland. Now, what did the US want? US want the coaling stations, more trading partners in this area, and a haven. Haven means a harbor. Okay, for the shipwrecked or the damaged, for their damaged ships and for their sailors. In 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry opens up this policy. The Matthew started, the opens up Japan to Western trade. Perry's arrival had an important effect on the Japanese politics. Emperor re-emerged as an important figure and became more powerful. In 1868, a movement forcibly removed shogun from power and brought the emperor to Edo. This was made the capital and renamed Tokyo, which means Eastern capital. So here we see the change in the politics of the Japan. Now the emperors become more powerful and they were removed the power of the shoguns. Okay, and they change their rename their capital Edo into Tokyo. Officials and people were aware that some European countries were building colonial empires in India and elsewhere. News of China being defeated by the British also heard. So there was a real fear that the Japan might be made a colony. So in that time, the officials and the people, they were aware about that what was happened in the India and the others countries in the Asia. So and the news of the China being also defeated by the Britishers, they also know all these things. Okay, so there was a fear in the mind of the Japanese people that the Europeans, they were not made the Japan as their colony. Now, many scholars and the leaders wanted to learn from the new ideas from the Europe. Others sought to exclude the Europeans. Some argued for a gradual or the limited opening to the outer world. So these in these three ways, the scholars and the leaders they were also brought the new ideas from the European countries. Some also saw that we have to exclude the European from our country. Some argued that in a slowly way, in a gradual way, we have to open the limitations of the outer world or the outer countries. The government launched a policy with slogan Fukuku Kyoto, which means the rich country, strong army. Okay, so this policy was very important for the Japan because they realized that they needed a strong government and build a strong army. Otherwise, they will be defeated. Therefore, this they needed to develop nationalism among the people. So this one is very important that for the safety of the country, the nationalism must be inculcated among the people and to transform subject to citizens. Now, the new government also tried to build the emperor system, king bureaucracy, and military part of this system. Emperor was treated as the descendant of the sun goddess and the leader of the westernization. His birth was declared as the national holiday who wore Western style military uniform. So there was a new system, a new government was also built up in this emperor system where the king was the whole power on that time in the hand of the king. Then the bureaucracy had the king and the important part of the country that was the military system. So an emperor was very powerful, and the people they also treated that emperor was the descendant of the sun goddess. Okay, and on his birthday they declared the national holiday, and the emperor also wore the military uniform. Now the educational reforms. Here we see the universal and compulsory education system for boys and girls began to be implemented from 1870. So this was very important for the Japanese people or especially children on that time, boys or girls. Okay, the education system was very compulsory from 1870s. Curriculum had been based on the Western ideas, but emphasis was given on the study of Japanese history. So the curriculum, the syllabus that was based on the Western countries, and but they also emphasize that the study of the Japanese history must. Okay, the students, the children must have to know the Japanese history. The Ministry of Education controlled the curriculum and selected the textbooks and conducted the teachers training. So this one also very important that one education department controlled the whole curriculum, selected all the books for the students, and they were also conducted the teachers training. The moral education, the moral culture, the moral values had to be taught the textbooks taught the children that to respect their children. That is very very important in this time or that time also, and they were also putting a lot of the stress on the moral values, then to be loyal to the nation and become a good citizens. So these moral values should be inculcated in the student. Now, the administrative reforms. The Meiji government introduced a new administrative system by alerting old village and domain boundaries. And each administrative unit was to have sufficient revenue to maintain the local schools and health facilities. So, with the help of that revenue, they maintained the schools and the health facilities for the people. It also served as a center of recruitment for the army, and all the young men above over the 20 had to undergo a period of the military services. That was very very important, and that was compulsory for each and every man on that time, that up to the age of the 20 they have to serve the military services. A modern military force was also developed in Japan. Now, the constitutional reforms. The government set up a legal system to regulate the formation of political groups, control meetings, and impose strict censorship. All these measures invited opposition. Okay, now here you see the picture of the emperor, the Meiji emperor. Now the Japan, the tension between the democratic constitution and modern army had far-reaching consequences. Now, which type of the consequences? The army wanted to conquer more territory because they had on that time very powerful weapons and the modern army. If we are saying that Japan had a more modern army on that time, and so the army also wanted to conquer the more territories. This led war with China and Russia, and both war on that time were won by the Japan. Japan developed economically and became a colonial power on that time. Now here you see the Meiji reforms that in the at the time of the Meiji, which type of the reforms they did. The first here you see in the starting land redistribution. Then westernization the school system. Then the modernize the army, build the modern navy, emperor worship intensified, and human rights and religious freedom, the written constitution, and the modern banking system, and the last abolition of the feudal system. So all these reforms were done by the Meiji government on that time. Okay, student, thank you.